Welcome to ACC Interview. I'm Jory, and today I'll be interviewing Miss Piekarczyk. So how are you doing today, Miss Piekarczyk?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Jory.
So what inspired you to be a school counselor?
Well, I wanted to be a positive influence in as many children's lives as I could be. I was in school back in the 70s and 80s, and there weren't a lot of help dealing with academic and emotional issues. So I think it's very, very important that kids learn how to manage their emotions, how to regulate, and also how to aspire to be the best that they can be.
Did being a school counselor have a mental toll on your body and mind?
Absolutely. I worked a lot of long hours and dealing with a lot of difficult situations, but it helped me to realize the importance of self-care, not only for school counselors, but for teachers and administration and all staff that work in schools.
So compared to when you were in school and now, would you say mental health's a lot more spoken about? I would say?
Absolutely. It was not spoken about at all when I was in school, and I was a child who came from a broken home in a time when, I was, the only one in my class, and also had really bad social anxiety. Just it wasn't recognized, especially in children. It just wasn't talked about. So, it was an opportunity for me to give the help to students that I wish I had been able to receive when I was younger.
How do you approach building relationships with your students?
A lot of ways, every opportunity that I can. Number one is being visible and approachable to students. Saying good morning and goodbye every day. Also, I would sit outside my classroom and pass out supplies to kids who needed them, hats, coats, and even food. And talking to kids about the importance of SEL, social emotional learning and regulating emotions.
Have you ever had any students that you've had a lot of trouble with, building relationships?
There's always difficult students, but never any that I would say were difficult building relationships with. Some were just a little more challenging and took a little more time. But the importance of relationship building cannot be understated. It's a lot of reading kids, I think, reading the nonverbal cues as well, and knowing when to approach and when not to approach, especially, in emergency situations, I would approach immediately. But some kids just take a little bit longer to trust, and just inviting them, to small groups and I had a mindfulness space in my office that all the kids love to come visit. So there's just a lot of ways to build those relationships and break down those barriers.
Compared to the beginning of your career to now, would you say that you found different ways? What are some different things that you learned throughout your career?
Well, each child is different, and I was constantly learning, constantly looking at the research says. Social emotional learning is so important. So finding ways to incorporate social emotional learning into day-to-day interactions with kids and making it fun, making it fun for them to learn. I always like to use the brain in the palm of the hand model. So this is your brain stem, this is the amygdala, or the emotional brain, this is the prefrontal cortex, so teaching kids how to recognize what zone they're in. Red zone is the amygdala, or emotional brain is leading, and then the green zone is when that prefrontal cortex is online, all connections are being made, and regulation and clear thinking. So learning a lot about the brain, I have to say, the more I learned about the brain.
So you're more confident now? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, because I went in during COVID. I started during COVID and started on hybrid learning, then 100% virtual, then back to hybrid, and then to, full-time in the classroom. So I felt like I had to learn my job, how to perform my job several times.
Lots of change.
Lots of change, but it made me a very resilient school counselor, and resiliency is so important to model for kids.
How do you handle conflicts between students?
I am a big advocate of, I knew I was going to, circles. Of course, I can't think of the word right now. Where kids can sit together and have a voice and in a safe space, non-judgmental, and restorative justice circles, and where the alleged perpetrators can be held accountable and healing takes place. I think restorative justice circles also help kids to build community and also learn to work through conflict on their own. And during the sessions you get to the root cause of what the issue was, and a lot of times they would find out the root cause really just wasn't as important. They kind of forgot what they were upset with each other about or fighting about. So that's my first go-to.
Would you say that happens a lot throughout kids?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Especially since COVID, I've seen a lot more conflict between kids and amongst kids than before. So, it has been on the increase.
Yeah.
I think the kids are just out of the classrooms and didn't have that socialization. So learning how to socialize all over again, it can be difficult work for young kids.
Do you think we'll ever get back to before COVID behavior?
I don't think anything will be the same as it was. I just think we'll be better as a result.
Yeah. Can you give an example of a successful intervention you've implemented in a student?
Yes. Excuse me. So I had a student who had test anxiety. Even after they had a 504, so extra time and groups were part of their interventions, and still had extreme test anxiety. So I am also a certified yoga instructor, so I always go to breathing, basic breathing exercises. So square breathing. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. Super simple, can be done anywhere, and it helps to calm that emotional brain so that the prefrontal cortex can, get back online and clear thinking for test taking, especially with the high stakes that are put on test taking, these days. Not just from school, but parents too put a lot of pressure on their kids. So teaching that breathing can be done anytime and anywhere, and nobody has to know you're doing it. So I think that's a great strategy for kids.
What would you say is like the biggest stressor you've seen in kids?
Oh goodness, pressure to fit in. I think pressure to fit in. I see a lot of that. So teaching kids just to love themselves as they are, is so important. That and bullying. I see a lot of bullying.
Still?
Sadly, yes.
And do you have any solutions that you've proposed to help with that feeling?
With what, honey?
With that feeling of being ostracized, how you preach self-love. What are some ways you teach students that?
Well, I do small groups especially with young girls, to teach self-love and strength and perseverance. And then I had proposed some things for the boys' side to teach boys to be young gentlemen. I think when you feel like you have the tools, you're much more confident, and to know that we all struggle with feeling insecure from time to time, and that we do have the power to overcome that. Showing girls that they can, do things, accomplishing things.
That's all the questions we have for you today. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for watching. I've learned so much. This was very insightful.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you. You as well. Thank you.